Ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin has come upwards in the last couple of days, retested and rejected on a short-term level from this yellow line on the screen, which sits at 118,000. Now, it's not just any random line. If we zoom right backwards to the 2017 bull market top, we can see that's where it stems from. It cuts through the 2021 all-time highs. In fact, it marked the 2021 all-time high, especially here in November at the end of the year once it was established. And it cuts right through the price action. And you can see even recently, right, in late 2024, it marked local tops. And even up until now, again, it's marked a local rejection point. So the question is, when will we attack this line again? Will we get back above it? What are the charts looking like on a short-term level? We'll get through all of that in the first part of the video, and then in the second part of the video, we're going to discuss where we sit on a cyclical level, because according to the regular 4-year cycle, we've only got about a month left. We're running low on time here. So what does the next month look like? Before we get into it, just going to take 30 seconds of your time to look into the Bitunix Exchange. I think you should look into it as well. It's a global exchange. It's never been hacked before. Both of those things are very rare by themselves in a major exchange these days, but this exchange has both of them. Global, no restrictions, no VPN, never been hacked before, very low trading fees, got everything you would expect on a major exchange. And with my referral link down below, you can sign up with a 15% permanent trading fee discount. So that 15% discount will be attached to your account for life exclusively with my referral link. So there's a reason to use it. It's down below to sign up, get access to this exchange. This is the one that I use personally. So links down below, let's get into the content. Starting with the bare basics, what we know about Bitcoin right now is very simple. Well, we know Bitcoin has critical support at $107.3 thousand. We know that because that's a level we tested back here. And when we came down on the correction, we tested it once again. We also know that $107,000 level is bolstered by the bull market support band, which again was retested upon the retest of 107,000. And we also know, in addition to this, that generally speaking, we do retest the bull market support band in September. And generally speaking, we do go to all-time highs after that retest. We can go ahead and cross-check that. This is stuff we've looked at before. It's nothing new. We look here in 2021. There's the neckline of resistance. There's the bull market support band retest in September with the correction. And there's the breakout to all-time high. And the same thing once again in 2017. There's the neckline of resistance. Let me just establish it here. There's the bull market support band retest in September in correction. And there's the break to all-time highs. So if you've caught yourself thinking that Bitcoin is moving strangely right now, you're actually incorrect. Bitcoin is doing what it's always done. It seems to be acting very, very normally. The fact that it's done this in September, this exact same formula, neckline of resistance, a retest the bull market support band, bouncing so far, is actually further validation that the cycle at this point seems to be intact. And that will bring us to the second part of the video, which I'll discuss in a moment. But we know the downside level being 107,000 basically means as long as Bitcoin is above 107,000, we're in the clear. So that's kind of where we can go to. Bitcoin can go down to that region without being in a bearish market environment. But ideally, we don't want to go that low. And here's where we get into the Bitcoin short term. We do also know that we need to break 118,000 because that's where the big level from that yellow line is from. That's also a local level of resistance looking at the POC on the volume profile. So basically upside level 118, downside level 107. So what about the local? What's going to happen next? Well, unfortunately, Bitcoin does seem to be in some sort of ascending wedge formation, which is not an inherently bullish structure. In fact, it's an inherently bearish structure. And so a breakdown is certainly on the table here. There's nothing saying we can't break down. We have the RSI, for example, on the daily chart. We'll start with the daily chart. We've got this big RSI structure on the daily chart. I'll make it yellow so you can see which one I'm referring to. And we're kind of in the middle of that RSI daily structure. So we can kind of go either way here, and it wouldn't be detrimental either way. Looking further into the 4-hourly chart, this time on the RSI, we'll make it yellow so you can see it. Another triangular structure with plenty of room to move, through horizontal consolidation or even upside consolidation. And again, if we broke down from this level, what would we do? Well, we'd probably go down back to something like this red line here, which is, again, using that word neckline. It's a neckline of support, which formed an inverted head and shoulders pattern or something resembling it back here in early September. So that level is going to be about 13.5 thousand. So the point is, Bitcoin doesn't look particularly strong, unfortunately, going into this resistance zone or a local level. If we do correct, it's not the end of the world at all. We've got levels of support like 113,000 and further levels of support like 107,000. So we've got plenty of room to move down below if that must happen. We have been in a pretty aggressive upwards move for about 20 days now, so it wouldn't be overly surprising to see some sort of short-term correction. Although, I will just say, that short-term correction is not guaranteed. Of course, nothing's guaranteed in the market, but further, and more usefully, it's not validated until we break down below this wedge entirely. So we could actually just bounce from here and go upwards. But if this wedge does break down with a volume surge, yeah, okay, lower targets in the short term are in play. Not looking particularly strong on a short term level, but in a very good position still on a macro level and even on a medium term level. But given the short term position and given the fact we're not above 118, this in my view is not really a zone for buying. It's a zone for remaining cautiously optimistic, but not necessarily buying. In the same way that we have a neckline of support right here at 113,000, and we could perhaps retest something like that. This is very typical of Bitcoin. Having these necklines that we retest. We've spoke about it with the bull market support band. There's a couple more occasions that I'm highlighting here. It happens all the time, so it wouldn't necessarily be strange at all. Ethereum is in a very similar position to Bitcoin right now, testing major resistance as per its all-time high. Very important breakout point for Ethereum. On a short-term level, got this level of support which we're testing right now, compressing against that all-time high resistance, so coming towards a crucial decision within the next few days probably, just like Bitcoin, and same thing basically on the total 3, which is the altcoin market. As we established in yesterday's video, where I discussed the altcoin market and Ethereum, I still think that Ethereum has the clear dominant position in the market currently, and for that reason, I'm most interested personally in Ethereum at this point. Now, if we see the next move and if altcoins start outperforming Ethereum as the total 3, it will be very easy to transition into a altcoin dominant portfolio. But right now, Ethereum is still very much in the leading position in my view. Needless to say, as I said before, I actually don't think anything really should be bought right now because of the short-term position we're in, which is a weak one. And also because we are just below critical resistance zones. You don't buy into resistance, even if you are bullish, like myself. I'm macro bullish, but I still recognize 118,000 as well as a 2021 all-time high on the Ethereum market and the altcoin market is a resistance zone that I'd rather just wait for it to break before I jump the gun and buy, right? Validation is important. Now, moving into the second part of the video, because I think I've kind of assessed the situation there with Bitcoin quite well. And by the way, if you want my full thoughts on altcoins and Ethereum, go ahead and check out my previous video where I discussed it. As for Bitcoin, we know the 4-year cycle is a real thing. That's an objective fact. If you deny the 4-year cycle, you are just simply wrong. Now, that's not to say that the 4-year cycle has to play out perfectly. It will break eventually. The question is when. And it doesn't have to break this cycle, So that's kind of the question. Right now, the 4-year cycle is playing out. It seems like it's working. It seems valid. And right now, the 4-year cycle seems to suggest that will top out in October somewhere, give or take a couple of weeks, maybe early November. And given that fact, as per all these date range trends which point to that October top, again, maybe into November, if we are going to be following a traditional 4-year cycle, that leaves us with only about a month left, which isn't a long period of time at all. And Bitcoin, again, just seems to be beating around the bush here. So a month isn't a long time. And so there's two possibilities. One of them is we break the 4-year cycle and we can continue going upwards into 2026. And that's certainly on the table, but it hasn't been validated yet. Right now, the 4-year cycle is still the immediate term scenario. It's still the one that we will first be able to validate or invalidate. It comes in October. So if we are going to be following a regular 4-year cycle, it seems more and more likely, in my view, as I've been saying, by the way, I've been listing this level 130,000 for literally about a year, I think. 130,000 just becomes more and more convincing for a regular 4-year cycle top, if that's what we're going to see. And why is that? Well, first of all, we're running out of time. We've only got about a month left of the regular 4-year cycle. We're here at 116,000. Bitcoin can move a lot in a month, but it needs to get moving, right? And right now, it seems like we are in an Ethereum-dominated market environment. And so even if Bitcoin did get moving, there's no guarantee there's no guarantee Bitcoin will skyrocket even if it does get moving here. There's more likely scenario that Bitcoin would move upwards a little bit, but Ethereum and altcoins would gain the majority of the market's attention. And that's where the inflows would come. So I actually don't expect Bitcoin to go that much significantly higher than it is right now, or than it has gone, if we are to see a regular 4-year cycle. The only way I see Bitcoin going to like 200k is if we break the 4-year cycle and run into 2026, right? So if we see a regular 4-year cycle, we top out around October, I really do think that these high targets people are listing for Bitcoin are ridiculous, because we've already seen Ethereum take control of the market. That's already happened. And it's never really flipped back. It's not how bull markets work. So Bitcoin will be a bit of an afterthought if we do break out here. And for that reason, I look at this logarithmic regression channel, for example, which is based on angles, and essentially the angle of ascension halves between each cycle on the upside and the downside. And I plug in the 4-year cycle deadline in October, and I see that the price point that would take us to would be $135,000. I cross-validate that with the power law chart, and I see that the green line on the power law chart would be at about $135,000 in October as well. So it seems to me that if Bitcoin was to be seeing a regular 4-year cycle, which again is a question that I can't answer, no one can, but if Bitcoin does see what it's always seen, a regular 4-year cycle, $135,000 is a level that you'd at least need to be watching very, very, very closely. I'm not saying it's going to top there. I'm saying you need to watch that level very, very, very closely. And furthermore, if we were to break $135,000, I would actually say that is a validation that the 4-year cycle is maybe broken, right? Maybe that's the validation we need to say, okay, we're going to run into 2026, because that's a massive buy signal, right? Breaking a channel like this, breaking a logarithmic regression line like this, these are massive buy signals that will give Bitcoin a lot of momentum to the upside. So I'm looking at 135,000 not only for a potential top, but also for potential validation that the market could extend further than it's usually done, and hence the 4-year cycle could be deviated from or even break, right? So these are big questions, big things that I'm thinking about right now. And I can't give you any concrete answers, but I want to let you know I'm thinking about them. And I want to let you know that as the time comes, we will be reacting to these charts in very significant ways that most people won't be, because they don't have these charts, right? Most people aren't looking at charts like this. So that's kind of my analysis here, guys. Part one, the conclusion was essentially Bitcoin looks okay on a medium term and long term level, looks fine. We have some local resistance. We maybe look a bit weak on the short term. If we did correct, it wouldn't be an issue. But I don't think it looks particularly bad. And from a long-term perspective, running out of time here. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the next month or so plays out. Potential target for a top, 135,000 if we were to see a regular 4-year cycle. If we break that level, that tells us a lot, not only about the top, but also about the health of the cycle as well, in my view. It's impossible to have concrete conclusions without just seeing how it plays out, but we have things we can react to, and that's very useful. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Guys, check out the Bitunix Exchange before we end off here. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you.